How many times has it happened to you that you're playing a calm position with no apparent errors, but suddenly everything starts to go wrong? Well, this is actually far more common than you might initially think, and it happens to most of us chess players, but there is a very effective solution to this problem. Today, through a master game, we're going to learn exactly how to effectively punish these specific types of tactical errors, how to think much better during your games, and how to make our opponents the ones in that difficult situation. In this classic game played by Blackburn with the block pieces back in 1892, this concept is demonstrated in a perfectly clear and instructive manner. The double king's pawn was played, e4 and e5, the most popular moves in chess. And here, right on move 2, the white piece is already surprised with the move d4. Really, what is the most common? Well, maybe playing knight f3 would be the most common of all, right? Attacking his pawn on e5. Also, the bishop's opening, even with bishop c4, but the move d4 is already a bit of a strange move. Although all moves, if we study them well, can be beneficial for us. In these types of situations, when we no longer know what our opponents are doing to us, we must think clearly. If now we defend this pawn they're attacking, for example with d6, we'd reach a very bad position because after the pawn exchange, they'd also exchange queens, right? And now we'd have a fairly equal position, yes, but we wouldn't be able to castle. There's construction work going on here. I hope it's not heard too much. The idea is that now they could continue with the initiative while developing a piece and attacking one of our pawns. This is called having the initiative. And keep this phrase in your mind for when you play your games. If you can develop a piece while attacking something of your opponent's, it's usually an excellent idea. Come on, let's go back to understand exactly what's happening here. After the move d4, then we're seeing that it's not usually a good idea to defend this pawn on e5. It seems much better, without a doubt, to capture this pawn on d4. This is for two specific reasons. They're not currently launching attacks against us, and we're also actively pulling the queen toward the center of the board. When a major piece is placed in the center of the board, it can be attacked from multiple directions quite easily. Do you remember what I just told you? If you apply this, you'll be able to win many more games. Develop a piece and attack the opponent. How can we do it? With knight c6. We develop this knight and attack the opponent's queen, which will have to retreat. Once retreated, it will be our turn to move again, and this is called playing with initiative. What do you think of the combination of pieces and board, by the way, that I've come up with today? This is a combination I came up with myself, right? I've chosen this board with white finishes, which is new for me. As you know, I love the special edition, and I've also added these pieces. Well, for anyone who wants to make their own combinations, I'll leave it for you down in the description. I'm also going to leave how I made the combination, this board, and these pieces. You know that right now we have a 15% discount code for any kind of board and piece combination in the shop where I get them, okay? All right, what's the idea here for white? Well, pay attention because it's very interesting. They are looking to place the queen on the e3 square with the strategic idea of this development knight to c3, bishop to d2, then long castle, and then launch these pawns to aggressively attack us, which will probably happen right when we decide to castle. All of this is very nice, and the plan is quite interesting. However, you shouldn't forget that in chess, we're not the only ones playing, but we play and our opponent plays too. And they're never going to make things easy for us. I wish they would, but it's usually not like that. All right, here, it's true that black doesn't play the theoretical move. We're talking about the year 1892, and back then they were actually much more creative, which I really like. Nowadays, modern games are played at the level of engines, practically, in the world elite. That's why analyzing those kinds of games is practically not beneficial for us. On the other hand, here we perfectly understand the plans they wanted to carry out. Probably the most common move would be knight f6, but Blackburn, also known as the Black Death, played g6. The idea is clear. Develop the bishop to g7, develop this knight, and castle short. An extremely interesting position. White continues with their plan. Bishop d2, maybe also threatening with this bishop c3 at times, but we see that after the move bishop g7, knight c3 is quickly played. It wouldn't be interesting to play bishop c3 now, because knight f6 would simply be played, and this knight would have no way out. That's why knight c3 is simply played here. Now it's our turn to develop this knight either through f6 or e7. They'd be good responses, they'd be interesting responses, but maybe it's a bit more interesting through e7, because that way we leave the bishop's diagonal completely free. Even though in the future this knight could move aside so the bishop attacks, hey, with the knight on e7, it attacks immediately. Therefore, it must be a move to keep in mind for sure. The game continues with long castling by the white pieces and short castling by the black pieces. And here, the first mistake by white already begins. Do you know which one it is? f4. Let's see. It seems like a very quiet move on the surface, and surely here the white pieces are finding themselves in the position I was telling you about in the introduction of this video. They've played a quiet game with no apparent mistakes, but suddenly you'll see that their opponent, in this case Blackburn with the black pieces, is suddenly going to have it super easy to attack and win the game. Here, bishop to c4 should have been played, and now you'll see why. The idea is to control the center. Against this f4, that is, against this flank attack, we're going to apply the pattern that says, against a side attack, we react with a central attack. And this is always possible. Why? Because the center is always more important than a side. Whoever doesn't dominate the center isn't going to dominate the game at all. In this case, this advance is being threatened. Winning a piece, the dreaded fork, right? Or fork, call it whatever you want, I don't care. I completely don't care what you call it. The idea is that this pawn must be captured no matter what, right? Why? Because if not, it's going to advance. Therefore, after this capture, black has managed to free themselves a lot. It's true they could already recapture with this knight and continue with their initiative. However, here Blackburn used a very interesting move, which is the following. Instead of capturing this pawn immediately, he played knight to b4, with the idea that if things get complicated, he'll definitely take the pawn, because three pieces are attacking it and only one is defending it. So it's impossible for white to play two pieces at once to defend it. Meaning, if things get tough, hey, capture this pawn with either of the two knights and that's it. But if not, he always has options to keep attacking. The game continues with this bishop to c4, a correct move, but one that should have been played earlier to avoid the central expansion by black. The idea is that here we're going to think about what I just told you. What are we going to do? Try to develop pieces while we attack. I'm sure many of you already understand what move we're going to make here. Would it be possible to capture this pawn? Yes, but it's better to develop the last minor piece we have left and place it on f5, where it pairs very well with his knight on b4, and they both attack this weak point. Of 2 is weak because it's simply defended by the white king. So here, white is already forced to defend this point, and they don't have many moves. Simply, they can come with the bishop to defend it. Just take a look at what they've accomplished here. While we develop and attack, they develop and have to reposition the same piece again to defend. There's the big difference. And if we notice, white still needs a knight to develop. And mind you, white starts playing with a one-turn advantage. That means we're performing our tasks at an exceptionally high level. What exactly do we do here then? It looks like we have everything defended now. Hey, so now let's recapture this pawn, which we're apparently down by. And here a question arises. Why should we recapture the pawn? That's obvious, because if not, for example, they'll move the bishop, defend it with three pieces, and this pawn won't be so easy to get back. So before it's too late, let's take it back. But with which knight? With the one on e7 or the one on b4? Well, both knights would be correct to capture the pawn, but one is much better. And let's stick to the principles. This knight is attacking, and this knight isn't doing anything. Therefore, we're going to bring the knight that's doing nothing to place it in the center of the board. Many of you are probably afraid that this knight will be kicked out now, that you'll have to retreat, then they'll capture this one, and the position will fall apart. Well, this wouldn't be possible because after the knight capture, we're threatening something stronger. We're threatening the queen. Therefore, either the queen moves or this knight here is captured. In the game, knight takes knight was played, followed by knight takes knight. Now, it wouldn't be a good idea to play bishop takes d5 because they'd be giving us the bishop pair, and look at what a wonderful position we'd have. Both bishops attacking the castled king, the queen too, and no piece defending it. Therefore, this would be a wonderful position for us. It already is, right? We have a knight here attacking the queen, which has to move. We're maintaining the initiative, and let's take a look right now at how we could keep up the pressure and continue our attack. Think back to that specific concept I explained to you, developed while attacking. If you apply this principle, friends, I assure you that your games will be played much more comfortably and you'll win more, inevitably. You can watch this game and this video as many times as you need. In fact, I recommend that if you have the time and the desire, you watch it again whenever you see fit. The correct move here is Queen f6. The queen is developed while making the most lethal attack in chess. Checkmate in one move. If black gets distracted here, white gets distracted and develops their knight, simply queen takes b2 would end the game. That's why here they must try to defend this mate, and there aren't many ways to do it. Bishop c3 wouldn't be possible because they'd lose a pawn after knight takes c3. So there's no choice but to play c3, the pawn to c3. This is a sad necessity because, as you can see, every pawn move creates weaknesses. We've talked about it many times on this channel. And on top of that, what's happening is that a pawn that should defend the king is moving. Look now, for example, at this bishop that has a clear path and is completely immobilizing the white king, which can't go to b1 or c2. You see it? How well the white pieces are playing. But okay, now how do we continue? It would be interesting to bring the rooks to the center, as Capablanca would tell us, for example, but here there are much more interesting moves. And the thing is, when you have so many pieces attacking, there are always attacking moves that can work out well for us. And in this case, Blackburn makes a wonderful move. Watch out, okay? Knight to b4. It might seem at first glance that he's given away the knight, but no. Watch closely. They had placed this pawn on c3 to prevent checkmate. If he takes the knight, simply queen takes b2 would be checkmate again. Therefore, we take advantage of the fact that this knight here cannot be taken. But let's see, placing a knight just to see if they take it. If they take it, it's useless. Correct. The threat is massive. Do you know what the threat is? Imagine that here. White ignores everything. Well, the game is simply won with knight to d3 check. The king has to move onto the bishop's diagonal, either to c2 or to b1, and a move like knight to e1 check or knight to e5 check, a discovered check with the bishop, would end up winning the queen. That's why the real threat here now is knight to d3 check, and then a discovered attack to win the queen or any other piece. So what should the white pieces do here then? Well, try to cover the d3 square. For example, it wouldn't be possible to play bishop to e3, uncovering it for the rook, because then we'd simply jump in anyway, and they'd have to give up the rook, right? White finds a very logical solution, which is bishop to c4. They continue defending this at 2-point, they continue defending this d3 point, which was the truly critical one, and so now we must increase the pressure. Probably, the more experienced ones here will be thinking, well, this is simple. I'm going to place one of the two rooks on the d file and renew the threat again. Correct, it would be a good idea, but there's an even stronger move. Pay attention to this spectacular move by Blackburn, which is the move that made this game famous. If you know the game, this move will obviously sound familiar, and if not, enjoy it because it's wonderful. Watch. Queen to a6. A knight sacrifice and a queen sacrifice at the same time? Why is this queen being sacrificed? Well, let's go step by step. The queen cannot be captured because the bishop is in charge of defending this a2 point. And if bishop takes a 6, a serious mistake, knight takes a 2 would be checkmate. Look at our pieces, how well placed they are. The knight gives check, and the bishop prevents the king from escaping. So this queen cannot be captured. And can the knight be captured? Now, obviously, the knight can't be captured either because then it would follow with queen takes c4, winning the bishop. This would be check. It also enters through a 2. It will enter later through b1, giving mate, and these will be completely disastrous consequences for the player with the white pieces. So if the knight can't be captured and the queen can't either, let's think like white, right? What should I do? Well, careful because we're being threatened by several things. They're threatening the bishop, they're threatening to enter through it too. So what do I do? Well, white realizes that the real problem here is this bishop. If this bishop weren't there, no threat would be possible. And that's why they play g4. Very interesting. If we move the bishop back now, white will simply be better off because they'd capture our queen and nothing would happen. But look at this wonderful move that Blackburn finds here. Queen to a2. He sacrifices the queen again. Logically, it can't be captured because knight to a2 would follow checkmate. Again, huh? Impressive, right? Can the knight be captured? No, because then queen to b1 would follow. Checkmate. So neither the queen nor the knight can be captured. Can the bishop be captured then? Well, if the bishop is captured, this would have a very simple solution. Queen to a1 mate because the knight, excuse me, this would be if pawn takes bishop, queen to a1 mate because the knight covers the exit through c2. Look at how many combinations exist in a game when we place the pieces correctly. So here, white decides to make the following desperate move, bishop to e3. Imagine you're in a fire. You quickly go look for a door to escape the flames. Well, this is what the white player is doing. He tried to open the door so that if the fire comes in, he can escape and it's not checkmate. How do we close this door, right? We want to close the door so they stay inside and we can deliver mate. Red. It would be possible to close it with the rook, but there's a much more powerful move here, and it's this. Bishop takes c3. It's a completely lethal move. The queen can't be taken. Pay attention, okay? The queen can't be taken because then knight to a2 would simply follow mate. Impressive, huh? What else? Well, the bishop can't really be taken because then queen to c2 would follow mate. Now then, what do the black pieces do? Because the threat is queen takes b2, checkmate. Well, there's really no way to stop this checkmate. At most, it could be stopped by giving up the rook, but then mate would come on a 1. And since two mates are threatened at once, both can't be stopped. Look at what a masterful game. Truly a game from which we can really learn. Not like these modern, complex games where it's often quite difficult for us to fully grasp and understand exactly what's happening. This is a truly great game to try and apply in your own matches. If you liked this type of video, please consider leaving me a like. If you want to study with the same app I use, I'll leave it for you linked right down here in the video description. It's an app that's used to study openings and to study strategy. You'll see it has paid plans, but you can use it completely for free with several features, which is what I recommend at first. See if you like it, okay? It's the one I use. The app isn't mine. That's why I'm not going to insist at all that you pay, okay? If you want to try it, I'll leave it for you down here in the description. The same goes for the chess sets. It's the store I recommend to you because it's where I buy my chess sets. And they've always treated me wonderfully. That's why I recommend it to you. And luckily, they're giving us a discount code, Chess Teacher, for 15% off. So if you want to try the app, you have it down here in the description. If you want to buy a professional chess set at an exclusive price, just for us followers of the channel, you can also do that in the description. You'll be able to choose your pieces, your board, whatever you like best, and enter the discount code ChessTeacher and get it with the discount. I hope you loved this video, and we'll see each other tomorrow, as always, in the next one, friends. Goodbye.